The St. Lucia Olympic Committee, Inc., in collaboration with the St. Lucia Athletes Commission, is set to host a crucial coaching education and development workshop this Thursday, August 22nd at the Olympic House in La Clery. Running from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., the workshop themed From Insight to Achievement boosts athlete performance through education, aims to elevate the expertise of local coaches by focusing on vital aspects of sports coaching. The event will be led by Dr. Greg Sun, a distinguished expert in coaching and performance psychology who brings a wealth of experience from mentoring Olympic athletes and collegiate sports stars. His participation is expected to significantly contribute to the development of athlete-centered programs in St. Lucia. So, Dr. Gregory Sun, welcome to the show. How are you feeling?
Really good, thanks. Nice weather here, and it's been good so far. Everybody welcoming.
Okay, so just tell us why you're here in St. Lucia. I understand that you have a workshop to be doing. Just tell me about that.
So I flew in this morning, and tomorrow, Thursday, I'm going to host a coaches development workshop. So what I'm trying to do, we have about 25 coaches registered, and basically we're going to talk about the different aspects of training. The 4 pillars of performance that I use for training-wise involves the technical, the physical, the mental, and nutritional. So I'm going to try and touch on all of those 4 different components and see if we could help those coaches that are showing up tomorrow with some of the knowledge base that they might need.
And what should be the overall expectations of this?
My expectations personally is with the 25 coaches, I learn 25 new things. So I'm coming here with an open mind to assist them, not to dictate or to tell them what to do, but to share my information, share my experiences, share my education, and kind of give them an idea of, okay, here's where I've been, here's what I've been doing, and here's how some of the things may be able to help you moving forward.
Okay, just tell us a little bit more about you, because I understand you have so many years of experience, and as you just said, that's something you'll be actually teaching them in terms of bettering the athletes in St. Lucia.
If the program was a couple hours, I'd probably tell you everything, but but for right now, just making it short and sweet. I went to school in the States, so most of my experiences come in the States, at the University of Idaho and Washington State University. As far as the sports background, I completed my PhD in sports psychology in 2020, but I've been a certified strength and conditioning specialist for about 25 years. And in the university system in the States, they divide up sports, football, and the rest of the sports are called Olympic sports. So the strength and conditioning coach for the Olympic sports, which is rowing, swimming, volleyball, basketball, etc. So that's kind of where I am with that as far as the sport aspect. And then including in some of my graduate coursework I had to teach. So I taught classes, exercise physiology, health and fitness, and of course a lot of sports psychology courses.
Now, we were saying this off camera, this is a good timing for you because you and Alfred actually just won the Olympics.
Yes,
in fact,
exactly.
2 Olympic medals for St. Lucia. So we're hoping that with your involvement now, we could get even more Olympians.
And that's a great point that you brought up there, because prior to all our organizing all of this stuff, I really didn't know who she was. But now that she has made a mark on the world, literally on the world, there's billions of people that know who she is now. So it was, in a sense, perfect timing from the universe to be having this clinic now, because with what she's done for the country and what she's done to help athletes envision a future that they too can probably do something like that. I'm hoping we start with the coaches, because they're the ones that are going to be guiding the athletes, and I think I'm supposed to be maybe meeting with some athletes somewhere along the line in the next couple of days, and then capping that off on Saturday with Athletes Commission Forum, where we're going to discuss a whole bunch of different topics and themes. So now's the time, as the saying goes, strike while the iron's hot. We've got to be able to get these sports, and not just track and field, but all sports, because you don't know where they're going to come from. You don't know where your next medalist is going to come from.
Yeah, now I know you were speaking about and trying to, I want you to actually explain that more for me, because you're saying we cannot expect another Julian Alfred, but what we can do is focus on getting like at least 12 young athletes in that particular 60 meter, 100 meter, 200 meter, whatever field event, and really focus on training that athlete in soon enough, within a span of 10 years, becoming an Olympian, if so much.
So I'm going to clarify when I said you're not going to get another Julian Alfred. So what I meant by that is Julian Alfred is Julian Alfred.
Yeah.
And a lot of people try to imitate things in hopes that it's going to turn out for them the same way. But sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Now what we try to do is try to learn from Julian Alfred things that she did. And I can guarantee she was committed every day to training. Not knowing who she is, but that's something that you have to do to be an elite athlete. So now these young athletes are looking at those things that she's done. How can they, in their daily lives, get to the point that they're kind of emulating what she's doing, right? They're going to bed at night, they're turning off their phones before midnight, they're getting up early in the morning, they're hydrating, they're sleeping, they're not climbing every weekend even though they have training on a Saturday morning. So doing all those different things. And then as far as the 12, in my experience, you have to start with a large pool of athletes because we're looking at anywhere from 10 to 15 years down the road, right? And sometimes there's a high attrition rate due to academics, due to injury, due to drop out of sport, due to burnout. You know, there's a number of different things. So to get another Julian Alfred, you're going to have to start with a large number of athletes and start developing them now at an early age.
Okay. Great. So how do you approach long-term athlete development, particularly for your athletes who may not be fully aware of their potential or career paths in sports?
So the thing about it is a lot of times we look at sport as a unidimensional pathway. So we're looking at grassroots to go to Olympic glory. Let's just talk in Olympic sports. And unfortunately, that's a very, very minute, small, tiny, whatever, minuscule percentage. So when I look at long-term development, on the one hand, it's something sport for all or sport for life. Okay, so once they get involved in sport, how can we keep them involved in sport for life?
For life, yes.
The second part is, and I recruited athletes from the Caribbean while I was in the States. How can we get them an education using sport as a pathway? They may never be an Olympian, they may never be world champion, but how can we use their athletic talent to give them an opportunity to get a career or a degree and to do something else? And then the other last piece is that tiny group that you have as elite athletes. Okay, but everything has to have a plan. If you're training 3 days a week, you have to have a purpose. You have a plan for why you're training 3 days a week and not just going, well, this is what everybody does. And a lot of times just because of the pure numbers, we do a one-size-fits-all training when there's different developmental ages within your group and you have to individualize, but it takes time.
Yeah, everything takes time.
Yes, and most of those people are volunteers, so that's even more difficult.
Okay, so how do you plan to tailor your presentation at this workshop to really address the specific challenges and appointments faced by coaches in St. Lucia?
Well, I haven't really experienced what challenges the coaches in St. Lucia are experiencing, but I'm going to kind of go around from my experiences. A lot of things are the lack of resources and facilities.
Yeah.
We can have as many athletes as we want, we could have as many coaches as we want, we could have all the technical knowledge that we want, but if they can't run on the track, if they can't play in a basketball court, if they can't play indoors in netball court instead of concrete, because most of the major tournaments are indoors, you know, it makes it really difficult. So what we have to do is tailor what we have and the athletes we have for the facilities we have and not what we want. And if we have to be innovative, if we have to go on the road a couple of times a week instead of running because the track's soggy, because it rained and everything's muddy, etc. So my experience tells me that we have to be able to do with what we can do with what we have and not worry about other things. And hopefully, you haven't brought it up yet, but hopefully with this spark in having an Olympic champion, things start changing a little bit so that there's more facilities, there's more resources. I would suggest that you have a whole sports science division.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people online especially have been saying that we really need to like fix our tracks.
Yeah.
And we want one possibly up north, but that's just people wishful thinking. We're still waiting on just hearing specifically what's going to be done, but we need to really focus on those things, because now Julian Alfred showed us that it can be done. And we need to focus on that immediately and start young with those athletes who are fully interested and aspired by her, because she did great.
Yes, and again, there's got to have a group getting together with a strategic plan, and the plan needs to be implemented. So, for example, I just mentioned the sports science division. You need a biomechanist, you need an exercise physiologist, sports nutritionist, sports psychologist, sport performance analyst, a person that's a technology analyst, because everything is a technology now with GPS tracking and eye tracking and all kinds of different apps that they're using at the highest levels. Sleep chambers, but you may not be able to have those resources, but you need to have at least those personnel that athletes and coaches and all of the national governing bodies have access to.
Yeah.
Just even if it's a few days a week. You don't have to be, one sports science division for one team or multiple people, but just having access to the science behind elite training.
Okay, so let me go into this one. Given your extensive experience in academic setting, how do you advise student athletes to balance their academics and athletic commitments, especially when preparing for major championships?
Okay, so it's basically fairly easy. If you want to go to school in the US, that's where all the scholarships are. If you don't have the grades, I don't care if you're Olympic champion material, you're not going to get accepted into school. So the first thing, you have to have grades. And you may be able to go to a junior college, you may be able to go to a small school, but the problem is the smaller the schools you go to, the less money they're giving you. So unless you're independently wealthy, then that is a problem. So the first thing about school is you don't have a ticket with your grades, you don't have a chance. And how you balance in that, you have to make a decision. Is lineman on the weekends something that you should be doing versus school versus training? So it's choices that we have to make consciously.
Yeah.
Right? And even if you go to school in the States, it's the same balance. You're a student, athlete. So all of your non-athlete friends are going out every weekend, but you have championships in the weekend, then you have to make a decision that you're going to go out on the weekend, or you're going to stay and do your schoolwork, or get some rest to recover.
Now, I understand that you were an athlete yourself. Just tell me about your background. Like, what type of athlete were you exactly?
I won't call myself an athlete. I had an easy job. I just had to run about 20 meters, jump into the bobsled, and just drive down the track.
Wow, it's so simple. Okay, well, like, given your experience as both coach and athlete, that's like nothing.
Well, since I'm in St. Lucia for the first time and I'm trying to see how we can develop sport regionally, I'll give you a little bit of background. My involvement in bobsledding for Trinidad and Tobago came about through the Jamaicans.
Oh, explain that.
So I'm at the University of Idaho, and the business manager at the university, Chris Stokes, his brother was the driver, and he was the brakeman for that 1988 movie, Cool Runnings, that they did in Calgary in 1988, right? So they invited me to Calgary because I used to drive all the athletes around to track meets and stuff like that. And I go, yeah, I'll come up there for a couple of weeks. And in true Trini style, I saw the bobsled for the first time ever. I didn't know what it was. In true Trini style, I said, I could do that. How hard that can be? Well, it's difficult to run at 15% grade for 20 meters, jump in at 100, and I think my top speed ever was 129 kilometers an hour with 4.5 to 5 Gs in some of the corners.
Okay.
So yeah, it was kind of difficult, but it comes about, they helped me with everything. Because it was just two of us, I just did 2 men, but they would bring maybe 10 or 11, 12 people but they would help me move the sled. They would help me do stuff to help me fix the sled. They'll help me. My first time I went down, they didn't expect to see me because they saw me 3 years earlier, and then I showed up in the 4th year actually bobsledding.
Wow.
On my first run down in Calgary, same place I was, where I said I could do that. The track is 14 corners, and I didn't make it past corner 4 without going on my head.
Oh.
So the Jamaicans had a really good laugh. They go, "Do you remember 3 years ago when you said I could do that? Well, what happened now?" They took me under their wing. They showed me what to do, how to do it, etc. And we're still in touch right now.
Wow. Okay. So this is you. This is you.
Courtesy of the Jamaicans.
Wow.
So it's an interesting thing because when I was at the University of Idaho, we recruited athletes from Trinidad, going up the islands, Barbados, St. Vincent, Dominica, Jamaica.
Yeah.
Through and through, I forgot, Montserrat and St. Kitts. And we got a girl from Anguilla. So it's interesting because as West Indians, we kind of compete and compare and whatever, but in the grander scheme of things, we are all happy that things are happening, like Julian Alfred. You know, so it to me, I have nothing that's highly secret about what I do, what I don't do, and how I can do different things, or what I can share. Whoever's listening, if you want some help, I will give you my opinion. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not directing you. I'm not saying if you're doing it correctly or not. I'm just sharing my opinions and thoughts.
Okay, so given your experience as both coach and athlete, how important is the psychological aspect of training, and how do you plan to emphasize that in the workshop?
So in the workshop, and as far as psychological aspect, the thing about the psychology of elite athletes or just athletes in general, it's not something that's visible. So unless the coach really knows the athlete, they don't know if they have any goals. They don't know if they have confidence. Whereas if you're running track, so Julian ran 10:72, it's easy to see that she ran well.
Yeah.
But you don't know what her mental state was because you can't tell. So she might have been stressed, but she ran still. Now, if she wasn't stressed, she might have run faster. We don't know. So a lot of times what happens is that from the mental aspect, coaches don't know if the athletes got better confidence-wise because they can't see it. If they're in the weight room and they squat 20 pounds more, they can see that they got better. If they're eating healthier and they're drinking, 15, 20 glasses of water a day, they can see they got better. But when you ask, well, did they get better intrinsically motivated? Did they get better in self-confidence? Did they get better with stress? Are they more mentally tough? We really can't see that. So a lot of times when we do the sports psychology for athletes and mental training, we have to convince the coaches that at the highest level of athletics, let's say track and field, all the athletes are the same physically and technically. So when you come down to it, top 3 places is probably something mental.
Yeah.
Because they've all been training the same way. They've all been training for years and decades. They've all been probably at big elite facilities, etc., etc., etc. But what happens at the Olympic final?
Well, Julian Alfred said she was listening to gospel music to really help her calm her mind.
So she understands what she needs, but that took years for her to develop as well. To understand, okay, I am stressed, what do I need to do? Right? For tennis players, and some of you might see it on TV, because I learned it from television, you'll see them playing with the strings on their racket, and we teach them to refocus by playing with the strings on their racket, because now it's something that's tactile without just trying to remember in the heat of the moment when you're stressed. Oh, I'm supposed to focus on the next point. So we do different things.
Okay. So my final question to you is, based on your experience, what steps should be taken to ensure that our local coaches are equipped to develop our world-class athletes in the future?
Well, part of it, and the first step I think, would be this workshop. For some of them, I may not be telling them anything new. For some of them, it would be new. Some of them will pick some of the things I say and implement it. Some of them may not. Right? But if you don't give them an opportunity to get resources, to get knowledge, to get experience, and to get outside perspectives, then they can't change, because then we end up cycling the same thing. Well, this is what I used to do 20 years ago, or this is what my coach used to do, so I'll do it with you, right? But we live in a technology age now, so a lot of the things that people used to do before, running and jumping and playing in the streets and running all over the place, they're not doing it anymore. So you have a different level of involvement. So you have to be able to help the coaches with the resources and with the personnel that they would need. For example, sports psychologists, right? We want to teach them. So I taught a class, it's just called Sports Psychology for Coaches. Just teaching them the bare minimum versus just run faster, instead of understanding that they're trying to run faster, but they're so stressed they can't do what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. I didn't know stress would actually limit you in terms of running that little extra that you need. I didn't know that.
Because once you stress, your body's going to react physiologically. So your heart rate's beating faster, you start sweating, so you literally are running a race within a race.
Wow. I never thought of it like that, to be honest.
So there you go.
Okay.
Now you can come to the workshop tomorrow.
I'm going to be there. But thank you so much for being here. As I said, I will be there tomorrow to see everything.